So thank you so much for joining me. My name is Lindsay Rose, and I am the founder and director of a Frame of Mind nonprofit organization. I'm just going to give you a brief kind of synopsis of my life and why I have started to do this, because it's really kind of important. If you want to work with me, I think it's really important that you kind of understand who I am. So I've been an art teacher for 8 years, and I have really worked a lot with at-risk youth. My bread and butter has been working with the Lancaster County Youth Intervention Center, or sometimes you'll hear it called YIC, and it is one of the most amazing places you could ever learn about students. I think it was the most humbling experience to work with incarcerated youth and also youth that are in shelter, and that's usually for the home has domestic violence, or they're runaways, or they're school dropouts. They don't have a lot of support, so that's sort of where the shelter side comes into it. So I've been working there for just about 8 years, and I started off as a volunteer through the Lancaster Creative Factory, and it ended up being that I fell in love with working with the students there. It was really humbling. They teach you a lot about yourself that you don't know. So it was really, really great, and I just kind of had a heart for working with those kinds of students, and I worked in public education for a bit. And for me, it just didn't work. And I think the biggest part of that is I really don't like people telling me what to do. And I think that's really important for you all to understand yourself and how you work, how you learn, how you grow. And I don't care for, I think my mom and dad called it, I have a problem with authority. But I think as a professional, I think it's really important to understand who you are, especially when someone says, "Are you a good team player?" No, not really, but I am honest about that. So always be honest about that. So I think that's what caused me to really just want to do my own thing. And what better ways to create a nonprofit? And I started it back in 2019. And sadly, the first year was really dedicated to just really getting all my ducks in a row. You have to register with the IRS, you got to register with the state, you have to be compliant. There's a lot of rules that you have to follow. It's really quite defeating at times, especially when the government shut down and it pushed things back for 6 months, and it's kind of hard to put your business and your heart and your passion into the hands of others in a timely fashion. But we got through it, and I think that was really a blessing for us just to have a full year to really get all of the components that we need to be an official 501c3. So that's really important to be in a nonprofit work, because people, when they give you money, they want to make sure that it's a tax write-off, that you're legit. A lot of times to write for grants, you must be registered with the state, you must be registered with the IRS. So anyway, I think now where we are is we are at the programming stage. So what I am doing is I'm actually working on my master's from Moore College of Art and Design, and I'm applying for my doctorate at Johns Hopkins. So that's like a huge thing for me for education, is constantly growing as an educator. And I think what's kind of special about what I'm doing out of Frame of Mind is there is nothing like this. There's nothing like it in South Central PA. There's nothing like it in Lancaster. There's nothing like it really what we're doing, really honing in on the depression component with youth, the anxiety, the stress. And I think a lot of that has to do with the stigma that goes along with mental health. And I will proudly tell you that I have been, enduring depression and stress and anxiety since I've been a young girl. And that is something that I am proud to tell people, because 1 in 5 of us, 1 in 5 individuals, okay, endures a mental health illness within a given year. And that is for teens, it's for youth, and it's for adults. So if, how many of us are in this room, I don't know how to see that, but let's say there's, 15 of us, well, 1 in 5, so three of us, I'm one of them, is going to endure this. So it's a lot more common than what you think, but a lot of individuals don't feel like they can share that, because there's a lot of shame that goes with that. There's embarrassment, and it's not rightfully so, but in our society, I think, look up on the dictionary the definition crazy, and I think there's over 18 definitions for the word crazy. So it's really, it's sad, but there are, oh, wait, okay. I can't. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yes. I mean, absolutely. You are one. I am one too. So thank you for sharing. It's something that a lot of us go through, and nobody really stands up and says, "Hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is part of who I am." So that was sort of my inner calling, is to say, when I was a teenage girl, my parents, I loved my parents, but they didn't know really what to do with me. And I think I felt so alone, and I felt so ashamed, and I really had a rough path of my life. I actually dropped out of high school when I was in 12th grade. I had no support. I didn't have friends. I didn't have family that could help me go through what I was going through. And it was a really rough part of my life. But I mean, now I understand who I am. So that is the goal. That is the overseeing goal of what I'm doing with the frame of mind, is I want to connect with students who are just like me, that don't have support, that don't understand who they are. And that's why I use the social emotional learning. That's the SEL. If you'll hear about that, the social emotional learning, which is we start at the core. We start at the core of understanding who we are as individuals before we can even think about who we are in other relationships. So for example, I think a lot of us, if we really sit down and think like, who are we? You know, that's such a really trite question, and usually it's rhetorical, but I really do think like, who are we? And that's where that honest component, that transparent component, well, you know, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a best friend. There's all these other things that come before our mental health illness, but then that is part of who I am. And I have to think, okay, well, what are my triggers in my mental health? What are sort of my coping mechanisms when I'm starting to feel depressed, or when I have anxiety and my body starts to race and my heart's racing and my mind's racing? What are my coping skills? And unfortunately, lots of folks do not understand that about themselves. They don't have help. They don't have money to have help. They don't have insurance to have help. They don't have the courage to ask for help. They don't even understand what's going on. So I think starting with that social emotional component of understanding who you are, is the key to being able to move forward, to be successful, to have self-confidence, to be able to know who you are in order to move forward, to, you know, have a relationship. And then it just kind of branches out from there. So at the top of the funnel, you have to realize what you are, who you are, where you're going in life, what don't you like. And that is with all of us with mental health, because all of us will have it at some point in our life. So I think it's really important to teach young students about themselves and how to foster their lifelong goal of being just aware. Self-aware equals, you know, self-love and self-care, and you can't do that unless you can identify that. So that's why I'm here. That's what we're all about. And we just want to help. We just want to help kids. We just want to give them a safe space to talk and to express themselves, and to have an adult say, hey, I understand, you know, who you are and what you're doing. And I'll give a quick story, and then I'll kind of open it up to the internships. I gave my first sort of outing at a Lancaster Barnstormers game last year. They had a big mental health awareness month, and I showed up, and I had a cool little table. I had some stuff set up, and I had a teenage girl come up to me, and she said, well, what's this? And I started telling her just about what we do. And she said, you know, I just got out of the hospital for cutting, and my mom and dad, they don't understand me. They don't really get it. They think I'm crazy. You know, they throw that word around. And I said, well, you know what? I said, when I was 16, I cut myself a lot. That was a coping mechanism for myself. And I was honest about that when I was young. And she just looked shocked and taken back and said, well, I've never had an adult say that to me or make that connection with me. And it in that small moment, you know, I think it made her feel better and not alone, that someone was able to say, hey, you know, I did that as well, and I understand what you're going through. And then where do you go from there? You say, okay, well, these are some coping mechanisms that we can do instead of that. So it's working towards that goal of not being able to do that anymore. But so bringing it back to the internships, I don't know if you are all able to see that I had put it in the folder. It's just like a 2-page thing here, but in the folder of a frame of mind, it kind of just gives an idea of some opportunities that we have for the internships. So there's a summary of the organization, the mission statement of who we are, and then what I've done is I've created sort of like a paragraph or two about the mood of the organization. And I think being a business owner, you got to stay true to who you are. And how I stay true to me is understanding that I appreciate honesty, I appreciate respect, I appreciate someone who can give feedback, can get feedback. So I think it's just a lot more of just what your talent is. I think, can we jive? Can we have good energy together to work together and to have this positive outlook of being in the community? I think it's really important to sort of read that understanding of the mood of the organization. And then it leads to, we have 4 opportunities. We have general marketing, we have website revamp, we have the special project design, and art therapy. So just really quickly, I'll run down with you. The general marketing is, I mean, I was part of the design-a-thon for 2 years, y'all, and it has really changed my organization. It is absolutely amazing what the students and faculty have been able to do. And I do have a business card, I have a logo, I have some really great things, but I'm kind of lacking just sort of, I like sending thank you cards. So just customized thank you cards, fundraising materials. I'm thinking about making a zine, letterhead templates, just sort of those staples that businesses need just to kind of have. And that's sort of what we're in a little bit need for. That's about a 20-hour internship. However that works for you as far as spacing that out. A website revamp. Now, I don't know, I'm hoping anybody has went to the website. I did that myself. I am not a graphic designer. I'm not a website. I mean, I'm a teacher, so I don't do that. But I was pretty proud of what I was able to do on WordPress. It just needs some kind of freshness. It needs some easy navigation, just a little bit of a more youthful and more professional sort of twist to it. So that's sort of like a 5 hours a month for however long we need, just to kind of get it up to speed of what it needs to, I think needs to just be the next level of elevation. The special project design. This is a little vague, but I did that on purpose. I have some top secret special projects that I'm working on that I have some ideas. And this is more of a leading the project, taking the project and really running with it. And I say, here are your overarching sort of, here are your goals and what we're doing, and just kind of run with it. And so I'm sorry if it is so vague, but I kind of don't want to share my top secret stuff just yet. And then the last one that we have is working actually with the students. So if you have a passion for working with youth, we do have sort of an art therapy 6 weeks, 1 to 2 hours a week position that I don't know when it'll start with the COVID-19. But this will be an opportunity to really work one-on-one with the students, with me, working through some of the curriculum development, working on some of the data collection, and actually working with a project with the students. So I think that would be a really great opportunity to someone who really wants to be able to work with students. And that would be at the Lancaster County Youth Intervention Center. Right now we're working with females or individuals who identify as female. And we're working with students who have really poor self-esteem and diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So that is sort of our focus right now. If anybody has any questions, comments, please let me know.
So initially, I just noticed right away that like website revamp, 5 hours a month. Mm-hmm. If one of our participants is really interested in that, but they think, man, I think it would take me more than that. I think that it would take me 5 hours a week. Could they propose kind of an adjustment like that to some of these internships to you and work something out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely flexible. It's not set in stone. Anything is open to changing, open to feedback. Like I said, I love getting feedback. And I think it's important that we give it both ways. So yeah, if it takes more time, if it takes less time, if you have ideas about this or want to go this way with it, I'm pretty open, as long as it sort of follows the standard that we have as an organization. I really want the artists to be allowed to be an artist and make those decisions on their own without me kind of micromanaging. I do not micromanage. So I think it's important that the students who are interested are really self-driven and have some really original, great ideas and can share that with me. I'm not looking for yes people, like give it back to me. If you want something different, then change it. We'll make changes. We'll make it happen to what you want it to be. So yeah, I'm completely open to that. Sure.
For the art therapy position, when can we how should we go about applying for things like that with you?
Well, that's great. So what I've done is, since this is kind of so fresh, what I want to do is I want to be able to have emails and just private conversations with each of you that want to be part of the internship. And that's when I'll go into some more of the details. If you're working with students, I have a requirement that you are required to obtain all your PA state clearances. So you have your FBI clearance, you have your child abuse clearance, you have your PA state criminal background check, things like that. But I think it's really just talk to me one-on-one. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about when can we start, what do you need, what I need from you, kind of just the tone of it. So that'll just be a personal conversation that you can email me, and then we'll start that together. Okay.
Within that the career day folder under frame of mind where this internship document is, at the bottom of that page, you can find Lindsay's email address. It's listed there, lrose@frameofmind@gmail.com.
Yes, that is the preferred one. That's my direct one. There's like a general info one, but this one is my personal one. So yeah, please, at the bottom on the footer, yeah, please check that out, and that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm also a big person, so we can't meet in person. I love taking everybody out for lunch and coffee, so when we're able to do that again, I love to meet face to face so we can just kind of read off people, like each other's energy, and see if it's a good fit and if you're really into it. So I think that's important as well, to have that one-on-one time.
So approximately how long would it take to get all of those clearances? I've never done it before, so I'm just kind of curious as to how long those take.
That's a really great question. And that's something that I kind of will send an email following. However, I will explain it to you all. That's a really good question. So for the PA state background check, it's super simple and it's free. And you just go to the website, you type in your name, your driver's license number, or your ID number, any surnames if you had them, and it'll be immediate. It'll be instant. As far as the child welfare abuse check, that is free once a year as well. You go on the county website. You type in your information, and then you say where you've lived for the last 7 years, and that comes in the mail. So that takes about 2 weeks to get it in the mail. That one's free. And there's also an FBI fingerprint clearance. And this costs, I think, about $15. So if you have any problems paying for it, I would be more than happy to help pay for the FBI clearances. And we can't get those right at the moment, obviously, because you have to go into, I go to the UPS Center on what is it, Columbia Avenue, and you have to like roll all your fingerprints. And then that takes about 2 weeks in the mail. So from start to finish, I would say just comfortably 3 weeks to get those. And in order to work with any student, especially at the Youth Intervention Center, you'd have to have those on file. But that will be taken care of well before we would be in the classroom, just so we knew we had it on hand. And if you're ever working with students, with children, it is good to have those updated every single year. It's a real pain in the butt, but it's really great to have that. A lot of places won't even let you get anywhere close if you don't have your clearances. So that's what I'm also asking for you all, is just like what's youthful, what's really in, what do we need? Because I want to share with you, this is a story. Art Fest last year down in York County, I'd won this strain dorm thing, and I painted on a storm drain. But anyway, we were walking by on the street, and they were having a chalk art contest for some artists, and I came across this girl. She had to be about 17 years old, and she was doing the most amazing work. And I walked past her, and I was really drawn to her colors and her technique. And I was like, hey, do you have a business card? And she did. And I looked at it, and I was blown away. And I got home that night, and I said, how can I do something with this girl? And she's amazing. I went on her website, and I contacted her. I said, hi, I'm Lindsay. This is who I am. Do you want to work with me? She's like, yeah. So I have this project called the 1 in 5 Project. And what it is talking about that 1 in 5 mental health stigma. And it goes through a series of depression, anxiety, stress, poor self-esteem, and cyberbullying. And this girl, her name's Absterism. So please check her out. She's amazing. She did all this for me, for A Frame of Mind, and it was sponsored by Penn Medicine and Lancaster Behavioral Health Hospital. So we did this in order to put in all the middle schools and high schools in Lancaster County. So this is all her. This is her actual name is Abigail, and she's a 17-year-old artist, and she is an illustrator, and she's just phenomenal. You all can see this work. This girl is just amazing, absolutely amazing. And so we started off, this is the first one that we did, is from depression. And I really wanted it to be youthful, and I said, this is what I'm looking for, and she took it and ran with it, which is totally amazing for being that age and being able to do these things. The next one, I'm just going to go in order here. This one is sort of about the poor self-esteem, low self-esteem, especially girls. 7 out of 10 girls report having low self-esteem and poor body image. So we wanted to kind of talk about just the idea of comparing yourself to others on social media, things like that. So this girl is amazing. Abstourism, please look her up. Like her on social media, do whatever you can. She's amazing. This one actually made me sob. I could not believe she did this. It was about being bullied on social media. And what was really great about her is that when I kind of gave her the tone of the text and the dialogue that was happening, it was amazing because she emailed me back. She's like, Miss Lindsay, your words are kind of stiff. Do you mind if I make them more organic, like teenagers was talking? I was like, absolutely. And I looked back at it and I had to laugh to my husband. I was like, I sound like a 40-year-old person, you know, just talking. There's nothing wrong with being 40, but just my language is just it's not hip. It's not cool. It's not what the kids are talking about. So she said, let's just make it a little bit more youthful. And I was just blown away. And I saw this. This is the last poster she did. I just sobbed. I couldn't believe. It was just hurt my heart because how many of you have felt this way ever, you know, on social media or whatever that could be. And that is one other thing I'm going to share with you. A frame of mind. I do not do social media as much as I can. I don't care for it. I think it's really important. However, so many individuals, especially youth, are they get depressed and stressed and anxious from social media. And I myself has had a really just not good experience. So I just said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I know a lot of people yell at me for that, but I find as, you know, as your own business owner, you can do whatever you want. And I said, no, thank you. So she did that, just the work she did. So what Penn Medicine has done is they sponsored, so she got a scholarship for college for art school that she got into. And also, these are next year, since the COVID-19, all of these posters will be printed out and given to every middle school and high school in Lancaster County. So that's just kind of some of the stuff that I like to work on. If you come in my frame, I have so much stuff. Did anybody see this in the paper? It was the coolest thing ever. My frame of mind, the frame of mind article. That this logo here was done by PCA&D students 2 years ago, and they just helped brand it, and it was absolutely amazing. So that was really exciting for me. I had no idea this was going to be in the paper, so I was freaking out. I went and bought the paper at Turkey Hill, and then I was like screaming in the parking lot, and people were looking at me, but I was just so excited that my logo is huge on the paper. But I wanted to do a postcard project because right now I think it's so important to reach out to people and let them know you care. And that's the one thing that's really hard about nonprofit work, is that you're constantly asking people for money, and it's really cringy. So instead of kind of asking people for money, what I like to do is just make them feel special by saying, hey, you know, I'm thinking about you, or I hope things are well, or I hope your family's safe. I hope things are going on. So I wanted to have like a bunch of just postcards to just send to anybody and everybody. Especially what I wanted to do is if teens can sign up on my website somehow, to just type in your physical mailing address, because there is nothing more special than getting a piece of mail in the mailbox. I'm telling you, it changes lives when you get a piece of mail. So I just kind of wanted to have some like fresh, fun postcards that say funny things or do kind of cool things, to just send to people, because when you reach out and tell somebody that you care about them, it goes so much further than what you realize, even if they don't tell you.
Hi, so like I came late and I'm very sorry about that, but I just kind of wanted to know what all do you do? Because I was looking on the website and it talks about how you help with depression, anxiety, and stress, and I wanted to know how you incorporate art with that. And I'm so sorry if you explained this 1,000 times. Yeah, I would just
it's no problem. Please don't apologize. It's totally fine. And this is why I'm here today. So just the Cliff Notes version of what we do is we help students who experience depression, stress, and anxiety through social emotional learning framework. So social emotional learning is when you start at the center of understanding who you are. So everybody open up a new tab on your browser, and I want you to type in CASEL, CASEL, and it's going to pop up Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. So it looks like CASEL. And what this is going to kind of give you an idea of what social emotional learning is. And we start at the core of the center of understanding who we are. So our visual arts programming starts with understanding who we are, and that includes the mental health component. So our typical sort of programming starts out, it is all one-on-one. There is no group. It's just one-on-one. And what we do is we kind of target and identify who we are, is what are are our likes? What are our dislikes? What are some of our symptoms when we're experiencing these things? What are our coping mechanisms? How are our behaviors? We kind of analyze who we are and talk about sort of what our depression looks like, what our anxiety looks like. And I kind of give an example of my anxiety. I call Stu. Husband's had some bad run-ins with guys named Stu. I don't know. But Stu is a guy that comes to me when I have anxiety, and he gets me all wound up. He's like, hey, you should feel this way. You should feel this way. You should feel anxious. You should feel worried. And it just kind of overwhelms. And I start to, my stomach doesn't feel really good. And I identify it as Stu because it's kind of tricking me into thinking things that aren't really there or aren't really happening. So it's kind of me saying, Stu, I don't need a car right now, and just kind of backing it away. So what we do is sometimes when emotions come over us, whether it's depression or anxiety, we think it's really who we are, but it's not. It's something completely separate that comes on, and we have to identify that. And that really helps students understand that it's something separate from them. It's part of them, but it's separate from them. So giving it a name. So that would be one of our first sort of things that we do, is identify sort of feelings or what's happening in emotions when these things are happening. Okay, well, when we feel this way, now how do we have coping mechanisms? How do we move through that? And how we do that for visual arts is we really talk about color, we talk about line, we talk about self-expression. So I throw a little bit of the fancy schmancy vernacular in there, but it's really about discovering individual who the student is. And that's why our curriculum is never the same. We have a broad framework using that social emotional learning, but it's really understanding the student and what their needs are is how we grow and how we assess our data from the day that they started with us, from the day that they end with us, how much they have grown, how much do they like themselves more, how much more are they self-aware of their coping mechanisms and their triggers and their feelings. So it's really just working to identify how they're feeling, why they're feeling that way, and how to further control that. So we're trying to foster and help students learn that it's part of who they are. It'll probably be part of their lives for the rest of their lives. And how do we get a good control over that? And what better way to do that with paint, with play, with using glitter. I use glitter and everything because it makes me smile and it makes me feel really good. Or discovering a new talent with drawing or sketching, or having these things that they never really understood that they could do, and also having an adult or somebody older that can tell them, like a mentor, hey, I go through this and this is what I do. So it's almost really important too that if you're working with students, to be able to be transparent and share how you're feeling, and share, well, when I get anxious, Stu comes knocking at my door and I have to tell him to go away, and sometimes he doesn't, and how do I deal with that? Or when I'm depressed, I lay in bed. My bed is my savior when I'm depressed, and sometimes I don't get out of bed for a couple of days. And being open and honest about that really kind of just takes the edge off so yeah, basically what we're just trying to do is make a connection and help someone really understand who they are and love who they are. I think that's something, especially young girls, we are not taught to love ourselves. We are taught to compare ourselves to everyone and be beautiful and smart and funny and witty and all these things at once. And that's just not realistic. And I think, especially for young girls, we need other women and girls saying, this is not how it really is. You be yourself, and whatever that looks like, and what kinds of things do you do that make you feel good. And self-esteem is not about being pretty or great. Self-esteem is about knowing who you are and the strengths that you bring to a conversation. And for students, for any youth, validation and acknowledgement are some of the two most important things that you can do for them. So it's acknowledging who they are and accepting who they are and paying attention to them is so huge. So if any of you, have nieces and nephews or whatever, take the time to really listen to kids and validate what they're saying to you. And that really, really, really goes a long way, and that's part of that social emotional component too, of really making someone feel good about themselves. And we all have the power to do that,
You have examples of works that you've done in the past? I saw earlier, right when I got in, I think you were sharing stuff on your screen, but I think I missed all of that. So I don't know if you have any examples of things that you've done, like the students.
That I have personally done or students have done?
That students have done.
Sure. Here, I'm going to try this whole screen share thing again. All right, so I just have a little bit up here. This is just my personal work. Student work. So some of the things that I have done in the past, starting with that social emotional, I've done some really cool things with identity, and you have to do self-portraits. You just have to. So this is what I had some students do, is taking a picture of themselves with sunglasses and then kind of having that reflection back of where they want to be at that exact moment, rather than being in school, you know, what would you do and what would you rather be doing? And I had them use the grid system off of a picture to have them help them understand their facial components and how really hard it is to draw a human figure. It is hard. It is really, really hard. Some people are just naturally gifted. I'm totally jelly because I just wish I had that talent. I have to work really hard to do that. But we did that, and we did like selfie cell phones. So that was really a lot of fun. And like, this girl is amazing. Stuck her tongue out and have some personality. So that was really a great chance for students to really show their personality and who they are. And then I also did, I'm a really big color guru. This is an awful picture, I apologize. But we did a FOBs. Like, FOBs is one of my favorites just because I think having arbitrary color is really empowering to be able to do something and make choices. And that's really important when working with students, is giving them choices. So, you know, a sky has to always be blue, or the grass always has to be green. That is so boring, and that's not allowing anybody to be creative. So I often use the FOBs kind of style technique of just having whatever color is in your vibe, in your mood. So same with just sort of, we did pixel selfies too. These are like my 4th graders. So that was really a lot of fun to give them. That was when Minecraft was like a big thing. I don't know if it is or not. I got to ask my oldest. I think it's coming. No, but being able to make a pixel self-portrait, and then they got to be able to eat, sleep, cheer, repeat. It was just so cute that, you know, the students were able to really just have their own say in what they were doing. And that's really important in the work that I do, is I use is, you know, I let you loose in an amusement park. You know, you have parameters. You have to stay within the park, but you can go do whatever you want. If you want to go eat cotton candy and then get on the roller coaster, you do it. If you want to go play the arcade the whole time, you do it. I think allowing students to have choice. There's nothing worse in this world than cookie cutter art. It just makes me so angry, and it makes me so mad, especially when I hear that people are, like, a lot of art teachers will finish art for their students or touch their students' work. Oh, that makes me cringe. Has any of you ever had an art teacher? Oh,
Yes.
That
yes,
sounds
I-
horrifying
my
to
gosh,
me.
that
Oh my
is-
goodness. I didn't know
that
they
is-
did that. I thought it was always like when you see the student work, I thought that's always like what the students did. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, that is the thing. And it's so, so sad, Hannah, but it is absolutely sad. Teachers will go on students' work and do it for them, or they will choose the color. No, you all have to have a black and white pal. There's not a lot of choices.
I
So
know about the
empowering-
color thing. Yeah.
you got to use your own color. What if you want the cow, you know, in outer space? Go for it. You know, it's having that subject matter, or having that explanation. Okay, well, you're going to do this, but you can take that and do whatever you want. And sometimes students are so scared they can't do it because they've never been creative. They've never had the opportunities to make those decisions. So they're kind of scared and tentative, like, Miss, can you do this for me? Like, no, I'm not you. Because if I do it with you, then it's a collaboration, and then we got to argue over the profit when it sells. It's just a big old mess. So I refuse to put my hands on your work. You know, it's one of those things where you're kind of forcing the kids to be creative, because it's maddening. I taught K through 8. I was the only teacher in K through 8. I taught about 800 kids, and I saw them for 45 minutes every 6 days, and it was really difficult because every time they come back, they just want me to do it for them, or they look off their partner, or this and that, because they weren't really into it. We didn't have enough time. And it would be amazing how many students would be like, oh, I can't do this. And they would draw one line on their paper and it didn't look great, so they would just rip it up. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know, that was a $1 piece of paper. You can't throw that away. But it's just amazing to me, the lack of self-esteem that really does not allow students to be creative, because if it's not perfect the first time that they do it, they immediately give up. Youth Intervention Center is poor self-esteem, and that's why I think my heart goes out there so much. Is there's a lot less females than there are males in the detention. I think the max is always 10 males or 12 males in a section, and 1 to 2 females, but working with them is more challenging than the males. So for any of you that want to do the art therapy with me, it's extremely frustrating, but once you get on that level and they open up to you, it is mind-blowing seeing the girls really take ownership of what they're doing. You will constantly hear, this is ugly, this is nasty, I suck, I can't do this. And it's that defeating self-talk that a lot of us really just use that language all the time, and it really kind of helps shape how you talk about yourself, because you hear constantly themselves putting themselves down, and a lot of that comes from home. A lot of that comes from lack of support at home, and they just take it all on themselves. So when you start to work with them and you see their language start to change, and you see their decisions that they're making, and you see take pride in their work, it is like the best feeling in the world. So I think for those of you who are interested in the art therapy component of it, once you're in it, you are emotionally invested. I think it's not one of those jobs where you can just turn it off and you go home. Like, I've come home a couple times and just cried. And it's hard to turn off because you just feel for what they're going through, and you hear the stories that they tell you or things that they open up and share, and you keep a straight face and you're empathetic when you're in the space. But then I get in my car and I just cry. I'm like, how could someone feel this way? It just makes you feel like, wow, I really kind of lost all hope in humanity. People treat each other this way, but that's why we're here, is to do our part and do the best we can. So thank you for asking. So, and when I first started A Frame of Mind, it was for anybody. And then I said, you know what? I really don't care to work with adults. I'm just going to focus. I've worked with children for 8 years, and I said, I'm just not ready for the adult component. I don't want it. And then I kind of honed that into just kids. And then I started thinking about, well, I really struggled as a teenager. I don't know if you were here for that. I dropped out of high school when back in like 1999, I dropped out of high school because I had no support, and I was going through a lot of mental health illness that my parents didn't understand. And now, being in my mid 30s and I'm, applying for my doctorate, it's not to say, hey, yay me, but it is to say, hey, yay me. You know what? I had a really rough life and I got through it on my own, but it would have been a hell of a lot easier if I had somebody on my side, which I didn't have at that time. So I really think that we should be those people on that side for some girl or for some student or for some individual that doesn't have anybody. We have the power to be that person and be honest and open about who we are. And it's taking ownership. And before you can do that and help somebody else, you got to understand who you are. You have to understand. So I encourage you all, did you all go onto the CASEL website and check out the social emotional learning? I'm telling you, it's scientifically proven. It is revolutionary on how you approach education. So I try to work on that too, of understanding my triggers, understanding my coping mechanisms, and understanding when I'm kind of going through an anxiety attack with Stu coming at me, So it's really important to understand who you are and to talk it out loud. Talk to somebody, have a confidant, have somebody to talk about these things through, even if it's, someone you don't know very well, or it could be like your best friend or your mom or someone that you feel comfortable talking to. You need to have someone to talk to that's going to support you. That's so super important. So that's sort of our mission, is just wanting to be those people and create some really super cool art. And it's a really great way to introduce students to touching in and tapping into their feelings, is creating some really cool stuff. So I'm really hoping that after sort of things kind of settle, we'll be able to really hit the ground running. So now's the perfect time to really look through that folder and look at the internship opportunities, because we have a couple different things. And if there's something on here that you don't see and you're like, you know what, Lindsay, I have a really awesome idea, let's talk about it. There's nothing set in stone. I'm super flexible. I get super excited about ideas and what people want to do, and I understand that, my energy and my vibe can sometimes be a little aggressive, and it's not a nasty aggressive. I'm just a bold in your face person. And if that doesn't jive with you, that is totally fine. Like, You know, just if this feels right to you, if this communication feels right to you, this mission works well for you, I think you'd be an excellent asset to the team. You know, if you want to look at any of the internship opportunities, or if you have any ideas, just please let me know. I'm always open to talking. I'm a quick turnaround. I'd like to get back to somebody within 24 hours. It's just one of those things. I'm not constantly on my phone. I do have downtime. I turn my phone off for weeks at some times. I don't talk to anyone, just to kind of get my groundings back. And I think it's important that, you know, you all should practice too. Sometimes it's disconnecting from life, and it really rejuvenates. But I try to operate within a 24-hour sort of cycle, just to keep that communication open and fresh. So
my question was about like how you said that there's a lot of guys and not like women, like with like the students. So I wanted to know, is that correlated with like the suicide rate, and how like there's mainly like it's very disproportionate, and how there's more guys dealing with that than like women? It's because they have to suppress their feelings. Does that have any role in with the students that you receive, or is that just I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Okay, so let me try to rephrase this. So are you asking why the amount of boys is more than girls in the detention center?
Yeah, so I wanted to know if it correlated with the statistics that I've read about like suicide rates. Like, is that why you receive more male students than female?
I believe with the mental health component, I completely agree with you, and I think that is an excellent sort of correlation idea. But in the state system, unfortunately, because the Lancaster County Youth Intervention Center, they don't tap into the mental health component as perhaps thoroughly as they should. They don't know if students have an IEP, an individual education plan. They don't often know if students have a mental health disorder. They do know if they have medication. However, they often don't times really know sort of the background or the history. So mostly with the students in the intervention center, about 60% of males that are in there are for domestic or sexual abuse. About 20% are for like robbery, theft, drugs, and then some of them are for, you know, just like misdemeanors. But the background of the families is it's lock and key kids. You know, we call them latchkey kids, kids that they have absent parents or not very good parents, and what's happening there is they're falling into that gang sort of mentality. I had a student that I worked with probably about 7 years ago. We did a photography project together, and it was the most fun I've ever had. You give like 4 guys that have been incarcerated for like 6 months a camera. They could not stop taking selfies for like the first 20 minutes, but it was amazing. Just their ideas of looking at the rule of thirds, or certain angles of things. And the student and I got really close as we talked, and he wanted to be a chef, and he wanted to go to YTI to be a chef. And about 4 years ago, he was in the paper. He actually ended up shooting someone and went to prison. And it's stories like that just rip you apart, and you don't take responsibility, but there's almost that, oh, if I could have gotten through to him more, or if I could have spent more time with him more, and it has nothing to do with you, you know? But you hear stories like that a lot. These kids are just in a bad cycle, and they can't break it, and they don't have that support. They don't have, and it's not about having a great home or supportive family. It's just that one person that they need to help them sort their life out. And sometimes, unfortunately, they just don't get it. So I think that the ratio of males to females is more emotional. You will see more females in the Lancaster Behavioral Health Hospital that are going through the mental health components. A lot of times it's more physical with males, and it's more emotional with females. So I think that's where those two split. Coming back to your question, is that for sure, I think the males are more expected to be tough, to fight, to be a fighter, to be, you know, in the streets and this and that, where the women and the girls have more emotional component to it, where it's that self-destructive behavior that ends up being more of a behavioral issue than a physical issue, which is why they have that big gap. So I mean, it kind of makes sense. Look at the bigger prison of adults, like the ratio of males to females. It's just that physical versus emotional. So, well, good question. Good question. Is there any other question?
I had another one.
Okay, bring on up.
So personally, when I was first diagnosed, I had a hard time understanding it, but what kind of helped me was I had a therapist who gave me a bunch of clinical things to read about like what's actually happening like with your brain when you're going through a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and like how that affects you and what's happening to your brain, and it's not all you. So I was wondering if you guys go through that with students at all, or if that's part of maybe how you teach with them or somehow.
Oh, that's a great question. So I'm not a therapist, and I never will be. And that was a big struggle with coming up with this nonprofit, is that I am not a therapist, nor do I care to be. I don't care for the insurances and that kind of thing. So I said, no, I'm a teacher. This is how I'm going to do it. And I think, yes, I do believe that some people do better when they read and they can see those things. And as you were speaking, I had an amazing idea of, if, having some kind of a poster. I know there's a lot of resources out there, but just having a real clean-cut, clear way to show what's happening to youth would be super helpful. So what we do is, I don't really go into the dictionary versions of things. It's very cut and dry, of saying, okay, well, what does depression mean to you? Because we can define depression in a dictionary, but it is different for every single person. So for me, it's more important of making that self-discovery within one, of kind of giving prompts to help, or talking about stories, or giving them certain tasks to do. But in kind of like reading or this and that, that's where the the visual arts comes in, is kind of reacting and using that information, but putting it in a completely different manner that then I can analyze. Well, what color choices did they use? What shapes or lines did they use? Because I'll be able to read so much more about how the student's actually feeling by how they put certain things together, or their choices that they're making. That's why it's so important to have students make choices. If you're telling them what to do, you're not going to get the feedback that you need. If you're asking them to open up and they're having all these things that they're showing you, they are telling you a story in their art. And what is our job to do is really identify what's happening with the choices that they're making, and then we move forward from there. So does that help answer your question with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. So yeah, I'm getting some really great ideas for those of you who said that you would love to, for those of you who are really interested, I have some really great ideas, just talking to y'all and seeing your really great work. So thank you for sharing it with me. That I think that we can come up with some really cool stuff that wasn't even on my, I was up to like midnight making this, y'all, like trying to have something prepared for you for today. But, like I said, it's so important to have that personal time, because we're learning so much about each other from talking than I could ever put on a piece of paper. So any ideas that you have, or any personal stock that you have, if you really enjoy A Frame of Mind, like I am so excited to see what you can bring and what your ideas are, or from your experiences or your struggles or anything that you have. How would that help you? And that's important for me to hear your feedback too, of what's helpful for you, so we can come up with some really cool stuff for the students that we work with. So thank you all for sharing very much.
Has everyone found that Google Drive folder for Career Day where you can upload your materials, or where you can find materials posted by employers? Yeah? Okay, great. I just want to make sure. And in that folder, Lindsay's already posted for us information about the internships, and you can find her email address on that document. So don't feel like you missed out on something. It's all saved for you, that you can visit that after this.
Yeah, this has been great. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be able to open up, and I opened up some of your websites and just really check out your work. But please, please, please email me today. Please email me today and let me know your intentions, and we can just start that conversation together. And that's another thing I didn't even touch on. I guess because I have been depressed about. I had an event planned for March 30th, which was World Bipolar Day. And I had an event at Tell Us 360 for the Support the Mini Winnie, which was something that the PCA&D students did. I had a really great team of girls helping me out design the Mini Winnie. The Mini Winnie is a mobile art studio that my husband's a contractor. We're turning it into a mobile art studio for kiddos to have that safe place to have. So right now I just go to facilities, but having this mobile art studio is going to be an amazing, like, life-changing space for kids to come and feel safe and know that they have a place to create and talk. So the Support the Mini Winnie was canceled because of COVID-19, and to align with everything else and everybody else in the world going on, I would be selfish to say I was the only one affected by it. However, I cannot negate all the time and effort and money lost in this event. So I've been down for a couple weeks about that, and it's hard to kind of recover and bounce back up from this, but I'm really excited that I have a bunch of you with me right now, that I hope that you all appreciate what we're doing and can jump on board and just I really want to be original. Everybody competes, and there are wonderful, hundreds and hundreds of wonderful nonprofits here in Lancaster County that do amazing things. And my goal is to be different from every single one of those hundreds. Like, I just want to do some really cool, inventive, knockout things that are just really going to light up this community. And I need y'all's help. I need your help in order to do that. I need your talent and your ideas. So I'm really excited, and thank you everybody for checking in with me and spending your morning with me. I hope I was really disappointed we didn't get coffee. I was really excited for like endless coffee this morning if we would have been in person. My coffee's sitting on the table. It's been cold for an hour now. So I hope you all have some fresh hot coffee and you have a really great afternoon. And
so if anyone has any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to Lindsay by email. You can always schedule another time to meet via Google Meet or something like that if you end up deciding that that's helpful. Or you can hop on over to the registration table and they can help you set up a breakout meeting if Lindsay, you wanted to continue discussions with anyone. And other than that, I think this has been really great, and we've got a lot more happening today. So
great.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And please give me an email and send me all of y'all send me your physical addresses. I'll send you a little something special in the mail. And thank you again for listening to my babbling and joining me in my living room for an hour. So have a great career day, and I look forward to speaking with all of you.
Perfect.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.